Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'll start here. Let's see. I didn't make a comment last week regarding Owen Schroyer leaving InfoWars, but I just want to briefly comment on it here now. I think it's a very good move for Owen Schroyer, and it's a very bad look for Alex Jones in InfoWars. Again, the number of people who have worked at InfoWars and have left is a rather long list of people. All, again, very good people. No reason why they necessarily wouldn't be. Again, there have been a lot of female hosts in the past who worked there and got cut loose, or they just decided to leave because they didn't like the antics, they didn't like the way the people were being treated, 1,000 other things. But one of the things, again, that was interesting about Owen Schroyer leaving, and he's, of course, put in a great deal of work. He was making something like $150,000 a year working for InfoWars, but again, with all of the political, I don't want to call them stunts because they weren't necessarily stunts, but again, the political protests and the back and forth and all of the activism and the engagement and a number of other things that he did there throughout the many years where he worked there, which I believe was 9 years or so. I mean, he certainly did a great deal of work, and he opened up a lot of eyes and he woke up a lot of people. And again, it's just a very bad look for Alex Jones. It's a bad look for InfoWars as a whole. And someone like Owen Schroyer, who's as knowledgeable as he is on a great deal of things, of course, shouldn't be limited in what he can and cannot say, but at the exact same time, he shouldn't have been treated the way that he was. And it really all boils down to this, frankly. It's not even political. It has more to do with, again, a workplace environment. That if a workplace environment is poisonous, that will chew away at any individual faster than any disagreement about politics or anything else. Again, on endless occasions, and even Owen Schroyer was describing this when he was talking again about walking off of the show a couple Thursdays ago, and then, of course, just not having it anymore, not being interested, is that he would be engaging in his show. He openly talked about, again, the number of hours that he would put into his 3-hour show, The War Room, every single day. And then he would be in the middle of his show, or he would just start the show and he would be discussing particular topics, and then Alex Jones would interrupt him and come on stage and start talking, or, a number of other things. That lack of professionalism right there is the problem. And like I just said, I mean, that wears away at any moral human being more than disagreements about political events or what have you. Again, limiting free speech, or you have a disagreement about a particular topic, this, that, or the other. I'm not saying Owen Schroyer gets everything right. He doesn't. I don't think anybody does. But interrupting an individual, again, when you're in the middle of trying to give a presentation, is remarkably unprofessional. And again, in any working environment, that'll chew away at anybody. It was something that happened to me. I mean, it's workplace bullying. That's another way of putting it. You're trying to do your job, you're trying to do the very thing that you're getting paid for, but the person who's cutting the check thinks that they, again, own you in some way, and they get to interrupt you or cut you off, or, again, impede the very thing that you're actually getting paid to do. Again, when I taught school, I would have administrators walk into my classroom, and they would sit down, of course, doing their bullshit observations and everything else. And I just say to myself, why don't you just tell me when you're going to come in? Instead of, again, interrupting the lesson, and then all of the students turn and they look at you, and then they're distracted, and then I have to, again, resettle myself and then start teaching again, as if to say, again, what are you doing here? And then, again, they leave, and then all the students look at the teacher. And of course, they said this to me from time to time too, but they would do it with most teachers. They would say, are you in trouble? Why did they come in here and sit down and just listen to you teach and whatever else? And I'm like, well, they just do it from time to time because they're told to. And they're told to do it randomly, like we're abusing children randomly all the time. And then, of course, they're supposed to walk in on said abuse or something. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it would be a formality, but at the same time, it would be used as a workplace bullying tactic also. Again, that kind of stuff happens constantly, and it's disgusting. But again, that'll wear a person down, and it's done to wear a person down. It's done to, again, show control, that one person controls another. So I wish Owen Schroyer the best. I really do. I think he and Harrison Smith rather should quit, and they should get their own. They should get their own co-host show, and they would do just fine. More people again would listen to them than those that listen to Alex Jones or Infowars. That's just my opinion. But again, I think it's a bad look for Alex Jones. It makes him look worse than he already looks. Makes Infowars look less credible than they already do. Greg Reese has already left Infowars and left them a long time ago because, again, Alex Jones wasn't interested in his stories anymore and his video productions, which are absolutely fantastic. Again, he doesn't get everything right, but even so, it was good content. But a person has to have discernment and make up their minds as to what's real and what isn't. But either way, workplace bullying is workplace bullying any way you slice it, and it's no good. So again, I wish him the best, and yeah, that's that. There's this too. Japan's prime minister has apparently resigned. I think this is controlled, and I think it's a good thing. That's just face value stuff. What's been going on in Japan for quite some time is it again was not a deep state playground under Shinzo Abe, who I don't think he's really dead. I think that fake assassination was just that. I think it was fake. But I think he was getting out of the way to speed things up, to show the Japanese people how bad things could possibly get. So much so, Japan, of course, is the leading country when it comes to the COVID shots. I believe, arguably, outside of Israel potentially, they took more shots per population based on their numbers than any other country in the world. That's not good. And again, they don't seem like a kind of people that would necessarily do that. However, their crime I should say stereotypically, has always been very low, but their crime has been increasing. They usually keep foreigners out, by and large, and they don't let them, of course, become Japanese citizens and live there permanently. I mean, they have rules, but again, some of these things are starting to evaporate. They're inviting more and more Africans in. There were apparently plans to even create particular communities that just had Africans in Japan. I don't think that was going to be a good idea. But apparently, again, now the Japanese prime minister has basically resigned. And again, it's rather interesting as to why this might actually be happening. So again, a lot of people are commenting on it. A lot of people are saying, this is a good thing. A lot of people are saying, well, he was controlled by the deep state. Therefore, the good guys are in control about what's going on over there because, again, they're supposed to be an ally to us. And if they turn into a third world hellhole, then, of course, who does that benefit? Certainly not them, certainly not us. But, yeah, that's kind of the prevailing thoughts on that particular resignation, which, again, watch the resignations. It's in Q posts, means something. Now, let me get into this. And again, I think this is fascinating, and we are watching something, again, that we have never seen before in our country, certainly not in our lifetimes. Of course, the Department of Defense has now been renamed the Department of War, which is a good thing. At face value, the normies would say something like this: gee, that seems aggressive. We don't want another war. Why are we going, why are we going with this name change? And doesn't, again, that mean that we're going to war overseas? This, unfortunately, certainly for, I would say, I don't know, the last 4 generations that exist right now, is that you have these individuals believing that when they hear the word war, its basic word association, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? When people first hear that, they think American troops over in a Middle Eastern sandbox shooting up people that we have no business shooting up because we have no business being there in the first place. That's how conditioned and trained that we are when it comes to the word war. However, people have forgotten, of course, that the word war means domestic also. That the idea, again, is to defend our country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's the domestic war that is taking place here. Yes, there are a couple of conflicts that are taking place, of course, overseas, and those are being monitored, and certain things are happening, and a couple of bombs are being dropped on drug boats and a number of other things, and I'm all for that. Again, as long as we are preventing people from dying, then drop away, drop whatever you have to. But this war here is domestic in our own country. And it's been this way for quite some time. So yeah, there has to be a sea to shining sea cleansing that takes place, certainly, of these major cities. Now, what was interesting about Washington, D.C., in my opinion, being cleaned out, or certainly being worked on, and it certainly seems to be rather successful, is that when that happened, Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., of course, was in the White House. And she was in the White House before this move on D.C. was even mentioned. But she was in there again, looking neutered, as Donald Trump was giving a presentation about a possible new stadium for the Washington, whatever the hell they're called, Commanders or something like that, the NFL team. Anyway, when that was taking place, you could see again that she seemed as if she was rather controlled. She was rather quiet. She wasn't saying a whole lot. And he would occasionally, again, look over at her and, what do you think about that? And then she would just kind of nod or say, well, we have some work to do and blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump has her number. The good guys know exactly what she's been doing in Washington, D.C. this entire time. Well aware. And again, Donald Trump cleaning up D.C. and starting with D.C. first is a great look and it's a great move. But as he was doing that, what was he doing, of course? He was slowly rolling out the idea that, yes, this is going to be happening in other major cities. And this, again, is something that's been discussed in Q posts. I've read those posts on the show. It was something, again, that was theorized many years ago for a very long time, that going city to city across the country, certainly in the worst ones, and then cleaning them up would be a fantastic thing. Not to mention, it would create a vacuum. It would create a giant magnet where every single time that would get done, all of the bad people in all of these cities would come out of the woodwork, particularly the politicians, mayors, even governors of the states, you name it. And they would all start whining and shouting and complaining about how there's no reason why any of that needs to happen and he needs to stay in D.C. and do his job. We can handle our own cities and everything else. Again, those who scream the loudest have the most to hide. And that's exactly, again, what's been going on nationwide here. And the people screaming the loudest, of course, right now are in Chicago. Mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, again, full-blown communist. No way around it. Marxist trained, the whole thing. Doesn't think anything bad is happening there. Chicago's great. And yet their city councils are consistently filled with black Americans who live there who are openly saying, people are dying all over the place. There's poverty everywhere. You're not doing anything about this. You could do all kinds of things to change things for the better, but you're doing nothing, blah, blah, blah. And then Donald Trump says, we're coming in. We're going to clean up the place. We're going to make it safe because it can be. And certainly with the power and the weight of the American military behind him, there's no other option. Let me give you Las Vegas as an example. There was a post on greatawakening.win about Las Vegas specifically, which I found fascinating. Because again, I've had individuals, and I've personally have never been to Las Vegas, never wanted to go. Seems like a complete shithole to me, and always has. But either way, I've had family members who have gone there, specifically a cousin of mine. And he went back when Las Vegas was basically, I don't know, kind of the place to be. It was popping. A lot of shows. It was clean. A lot of people there. A lot of different stuff. And then he ended up going back recently, I want to say maybe 6 months to a year ago, for a work-related thing. And he said the place is a complete dump. It's done a total 180 since the last time he was there when he was a younger kid. It actually looks nothing like what it used to look like. Everything is empty, drugs everywhere, sex in the streets, the whole thing. But here's why. At least this is a theory as to why. This was a post again on greatawakening.win, and it said the following. It said, quote, has anyone noticed Vegas is dying and it's not coming back? And it ain't because of the economy, it's because Trump effed them from every angle possible. Number one, Vegas was a laundromat. It says Vegas wasn't built on tourists. That was the cover story. The real money was cartel cash, foreign bribes, and political slush washed through casinos and real estate. The whole city was a deep state clown operation. Number two, Trump cut the pipelines. He killed the laundromat. Treasury and DoD cracked down on offshore accounts, shell companies, and shady banks that kept billions flowing into the Strip. Once the dirty money dried up, the machine stopped cold. Number 3, he crushed their debt. Vegas built towers and resorts on borrowed money, counting on laundered billions to cover the gaps. Trump cut the backstop. Now they're buried under debt they can't service, with no bailout coming. Number 4, he starved their water. Vegas only exists because of outside water. Trump shifted the flow west to California farms and south to Arizona. Without that lifeline, Nevada's growth scam collapsed. Number 5, he broke the illusion. Once the cash and water were gone, investors saw the fraud for what it was. The confidence game ended. Nobody is pouring money into a corpse city. Vegas is dead and it's not coming back. Trump killed the deep state's money laundering clown show and left it rotting in the desert, unquote. Lots of people responded, as you might expect, and this is the highest rated vote on a response. And they said the following. Number 1, they said, I've been an annual Vegas visitor for several years. I've noticed the city deteriorate more and more every year. Some contributing factors in addition to those noted by the OP that I've noticed. And then there's a series of bullet points here, approximately 7. The first one said, drugs are way out in the open, are too way out in the open. I have no beef against drugs, they said, but smelling drugs on the street and selling users baked out of their mind, and seeing users rather baked out of their minds is hard for some to witness. Number 2, homelessness is everywhere. The Strip was once billed as glitzy and glamorous. Now most sidewalks smell like urine or worse. Number 3, they wrote unsafe, rise in crime and mass shooting, the mass shooting and onward. Number 4, prices. Vegas used to lure guests into a casino with discount meals, buffets, so they could win it all back with gambling losses. They said now the few buffets that survived the pandemic are charging an arm and a leg, and the newer resorts on the Strip charge way too much for nightly rates. If people spend $500 a day just for food and lodging, that leaves less to gamble away. The next bullet point says, the strip clubs and hooker angle is way less popular since those seeking such activities can basically get everything with online porn. The next bullet point, they said now that a lot of cities allow gambling and sports betting, once only available in Vegas, there is less motivation to visit. And then the last bullet point, consumerism has taken over. Casinos have luxury quote-unquote retail stores, and shopping malls have entered the Strip. Few people want to take an expensive vacation for the sole purpose of shopping. That can be done wherever the visitor is from, unquote. It's all true. I have no reason to doubt any of that. It's convenience for a number of different things, of course, certainly shopping. Again, people are more careful with their money. They don't want to waste it again on a night out, eating someplace, certainly not get on a plane, fly to Las Vegas, and then do that over there. Las Vegas is basically a giant hub for businesses and corporations to have meetings. And they fly people out there, and they go out there, and they do whatever it is that they do, and then they fly back, and that's it. It's basically like a campground in the middle of the desert. But the reason I bring that up again is, who's to say that the National Guard can't go there and clean things up too? They certainly could. But the corruption, of course, that the individual making that post was making is if the corrupt lines are being cut, then yeah, the cities that are dependent on that are not going to survive. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. People will leave. It'll just be a ghost town. And again, from what I hear, it basically is. Now, with that said, here's where it slides right into education. And I want to play a little thinking game here. So let's do this for just a little bit. I have it on good authority from an individual that I know who knows individuals who work within the Chicago public school system, that as it turns out, many of the Chicago school system employees, the public school employees, that is, that they very much are looking forward to having the National Guard there. Very much so. They are excited. And not in some kind of like a bad way. Like, oh, when they show up, we're going to have protests and we're going to throw things at ICE agents and throw things at the National Guard and blah, blah, blah. It's not that. They are excited for the National Guard to be there for all of the right reasons. To make sure that the right people show up and the bad people stay away. To maybe snap it into the minds of these brainwashed individuals that you must behave and you need to behave or else. Now, with that said, they, of course, are not going to publicize their opinions being employees of the Chicago public school system, because why would they? The moment that they get online and start saying that they're looking forward to ICE showing up and the National Guard showing up and things getting cleaned up and the bad guys getting rounded up, the moment that they say that as an American school teacher, they're going to get fired, certainly in that school district. But with that said, let's war game this a little bit. One of the moves that could possibly happen once this takes place, and I think, again, this is going to take place this month, if not this week, is that it's highly possible that the Chicago public school system will go on strike. Now, for the record, there's nothing on their website, the Chicago Public Schools or cps.edu website, that shows that they're going to go on strike or that they're even thinking about it. There doesn't seem to be, again, anything that indicates that. With that said, everyone with a brain knows when it comes to the Chicago public school system that the superintendent doesn't really have a whole lot of control over that district. It's the unions. The unions run everything. If the unions say jump, the school teachers say how high and can I please keep going. It's that simple. They have control over all of the movement. If the teachers union waves their magic wand over all the brainwashed people that work there, and they openly say, you're going to go on strike because we are striking against whomever, the National Guard being here, ICE, illegal students and illegal parents being rounded up. We don't want this to happen. Our schools are sanctuaries for these kinds of people, which is 100% illegal. But who cares? We're telling you to do this, so you have to do this. If that magic wand gets waved over their brainwashed little skulls, that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, again, what kind of conflict do you think that would create? These individuals, again, would take to the streets. Certainly not the illegals, though, which is the interesting part. I think that the illegals would stay home. Because, again, they would be afraid of being rounded up. But if they're home, then ICE agents and the National Guard know exactly where they are, making getting them a whole lot easier and making identifying them a whole lot easier, I would think. It's a bit of a catch-22. Again, they're in Zootsfing. It's almost like it does not matter what move they make, they've already lost. They've just been boxed into a corner and there's no escape here. But I would expect there to be some serious conflict because I can't imagine these people going down without a fight and just complying. Again, they are the most radical that exist in the education system. These massive cities, again, that are completely controlled by unions. So first of all, again, there's the strike scenario, that they would just not go to work. Then there's the scenario of they would go to work, but ICE agents would be coming into schools and taking these students out, and even illegal staff members who are not citizens and taking them out too. That's going to create conflict, but it won't matter. They'll be violating federal law, which means any single person who gets in the way should be arrested for obstruction of justice. This is, again, the moth to the flame kind of thing. They just don't learn. And they're actually going to try to get in the way of federal agents, which would be a huge mistake. Now, like I said, there's nothing on the Chicago Public Schools website that indicates anything about any kind of a protest or a town hall or we need to talk about this and figure out what we're going to do and all this other nonsense. Doesn't exist over there. But it does exist, however, on the Chicago Teachers Union website. In fact, when you get on that website, which is ctulocal1.org, it says at the top, priority information. It says Friday, September 19th, lead dinner, LEAD. It says back to school rights toolbook, and then a contract to transform our school district. Again, they think that they are in charge. Not the school district itself, not the school building, They don't think that they're in charge. They believe that, again, as a union, they are the boss. Now here, of course, is where they give up the goose. If you scroll down a little bit further on their website, under the news tab, there's an article here dated September 5th, 2025, and it's titled, Member Teletown Hall, Sunday at 7 p.m. Sidewalk Solidarity to Protect Our School Communities. And here we go. First sentence. Heading into this weekend, the news continues to swirl about the threat of Trump sending troops into our city. As educators, we are facing big questions. How do we keep our students and families safe? How do we teach about this moment, and help our students make meaning of it? How do we support each other as a union siblings at this moment? And then it goes on and on and on. Again, this right here should prove to people, stop frisk on steroids is one of the headlines. Staying vigilant, staying ready. This again was put together by the so-called leadership team. The president, Stacey Davis Gates, vice president Jackson Potter, financial secretary Diane Castro, and recording secretary Vicky Cruzuldo. I don't know. Again, they're openly telling you that they're going to do whatever they have to do to obstruct justice, and they have no problem doing it. Again, they have other articles here dating back into the month of August. One is titled, We Reject Occupation. We Welcome Equity and Justice in Chicago. And then again, a number of the other ones just have to do with the budget. Point is, they're openly telling people again that they have plans. They have things that they want to do. And they're not just going to follow the law, unless, of course, somebody gets in their way, specifically law enforcement, or National Guard, or ICE agents, or whomever. And they have to arrest these school officials because the school officials, again, are standing in the way. To that I say, arrest them. Arrest as many as you have to. Charge them with crimes. They should then lose their teaching licenses if they have them. It should cost them everything. You talk about a school organization that needs an absolute wake-up call as to who is really in charge. It's not the unions. It's not the school district. It is the law. It's the law that is in charge. Again, the sanctuary city thing, that whole thing, can be blown to pieces in the blink of an eye with just rolling right into Chicago and getting to work. And I think it's going to happen. Now, with that said, it's not to say that, again, some heads aren't going to get broke. I mean, someone's going to get shot. It's Chicago, after all. Someone's going to get stupid. Someone's going to say, hey, I have the first chance ever to take a shot at a federal agent, and they will try. I don't anticipate a lot of these gangs and a lot of these other individuals, again, going down without a fight. It's possible they might, but I think it's highly unlikely. Again, I'm certain, again, that all of this also is being used as a deterrence method. It's being used to basically say, again, hey, look, if you're an illegal alien, we told you you need to leave. In fact, we'll even incentivize you monetarily to leave if you just leave on your own accord. But if you don't, and we find you, you're going to end up leaving anyway. You're not going to get anything in return. You're just going to get a passport out of here, and you're not coming back. But again, the reason that this is being slow-rolled to the extent that it is, instead of, all the people whining and just saying, well, if you're going to go into Chicago, just do it. It's because deterrence is an actual tool. It's being used again to get these even gang members who are American citizens to maybe, just maybe, look at one another and be like, hey man, we can't beat the National Guard. They've got better weapons than we have. They have more of them. They have more, again, transportation. They have bulletproof this, bulletproof that. We're outnumbered and we're outgunned. What do you say we just, do something else from now on? It's possible. It's also highly unlikely. So again, it's just like, again, the deportation thing. I was wrong on that. I was 100% wrong. I thought all of these illegal individuals would dig in like ticks and fight to the very end. Some of them have. Most of them haven't. A lot of them, again, are self-deporting. I didn't see that coming. I truly didn't. I didn't see these illegals be like, well, they're coming to get us. Let's just go on our own accord and let's just go back home. And then they just leave on their own without having to be rounded up. It's quite possible, again, that that's happening right now. And we don't even know it. It's not even being reported. But then again, some of these people are going to have to be dug out of their holes. And that's going to be an interesting fight going forward. So it's certainly, again, turned into, like I said earlier, it's turned into a vacuum and a magnet because all these individuals, the mayor, the governor, the whole thing, all these weird politicians, and again, a number of other individuals on all sides of this particular issue are all coming out of the woodwork and saying all kinds of different things. Yeah, we want the National Guard here, and then other people are going, nope, don't ever come here, we're going to fight against you, and you don't have the right, and this, that, and the other. Well, that's a civil war, ladies and gentlemen. And you may recall that post I read on the show a long time ago, many years ago, where it basically said, this is the Civil War. You're going to see this happen in your own country. The people dig in who are actually advocating for crime and communism against those Americans who are not advertising and advocating, rather, for crime and communism. You have a freedom-loving citizenry that exists in our country, and then you have the other group, albeit a very small but loud minority, that actually love destruction. And ruling over the ashes is what they're interested in. So, we don't want to give them that. So just get rid of them. Again, I would love Brandon Johnson as the mayor of Chicago to be rounded up in this entire mess. Somebody knocks on his door. We have more than ample evidence, Mr. Mayor, that you've been engaging in obstruction of justice at the federal level now, and you're under arrest. And just take him away. But televise it. That would be fantastic. Do Boston next. Lock up that Asian mayor. Go to LA. Go to San Francisco. Go to Detroit. Pick a city. Doesn't matter. Hell, go to Cincinnati. Go to Albuquerque. Do them all. Just go to all of them. Who's against that? Who loves this country would actually be against that? This is going to be interesting going forward. Again, there's going to be ample video that's going to hit the internet regarding this particular subject. It should be very fun to watch. This is going to get interesting. It's not going to be fun to watch if a good person loses their life. That's horrible. Of course, if a bad person loses their life and they, of course, obstruct justice or get in the way, well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Don't know what else to say regarding that, but yeah. It's going to get interesting, and it will be videoed. We will see this. Of that I am certain. However, I should probably say this. It's possible we might not. We didn't see a lot of Washington, D.C. arrests. What were there? Over 7,000, I don't know if 700 or for some reason that number's in my head. I think it was well over 1,000 plus arrests. Well over 500 illegal aliens. A number of individuals, again, have been arrested and deported. The number of guns that have been illegal guns have been found. But there's not a lot of video of us seeing any of that. I mean, not a ton anyway. This is very well coordinated. This seems very, very clean, certainly in Washington, D.C. So, again, it'll just be interesting to see what actually happens in Chicago and the other cities moving forward. Certainly New York as well. It's going to get interesting, ladies and gentlemen, but the war is here, and it is domestic. Now, with that said, getting deeper into education here, this is a local one, and again, it proves the brainwashing, in particular still among the student population, which is pathetic. This is from WLWT Channel 5 Cincinnati. This was sent my way. It was titled, Dozens of Walnut Hills High School Students Walk Out of Class to Demand Gun Safety Reforms. The walkout was part of National Day of Action spurred by Students Demand Action. Ah, yes, Marxism is alive and well, and it's got the young minds actually advocating for something that they know nothing about. Give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
In other news, walking out of class right in the middle of the school day to make a point about deadly shootings.
Yeah, dozens of students at Walnut Hills High School took part. It was a show of unity with young people all across the country, other local schools, people doing it as well. I'm told WLWT News host Todd Dykes live now with more on what the students want to see happen. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Cherie. Quite a few students here in Walnut Hills came together at noon today and called on lawmakers to support what the students call a common sense gun safety measures. Today at noon, about 100 Walnut Hills High School students streamed out of their classrooms and called on lawmakers to help what many now call the school shooting generation.
This is a nonpartisan issue. This impacts everybody standing with me today.
Junior Migdalia Lopez coordinated today's walkout at Walnut Hills High.
End gun violence! No more silence!
Part of a national day of action spurred on by a gun safety group called Students Demand Action.
Every student, you have a voice more than you think. Please stand up and fight.
Lopez and her classmates want lawmakers to embrace what they call common sense gun reforms. That includes a national ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, also safe storage laws.
We're not saying ban all guns. We're not saying ban all firearms.
Rather, these students want elected leaders to put guardrails around gun ownership.
Who gets them, who gets to use them, where they can take them, how they're registered, and really just come in really hard on that because they're attacking, the usage of our cell phones instead of attacking the usage of guns.
Today's event comes a little more than a week after a 23-year-old fired into a church in Minneapolis during a Catholic school day, killing 2 children and injuring 21 people.
This is nationwide, and it's impacting schools in Cincinnati, and all of us are fed up. We don't know when we're going to be next. And the recent school shooting in Minnesota shows that thoughts and prayers don't work because these children were praying when they got shot.
Now, in addition to advocating for gun reforms, the group Students Demand Action also used social media campaigns to criticize gun makers, claiming they put profits over public safety. Reporting live tonight here in Walnut Hills, Todd Dykes, WWT News 5.
That's one smart spokesperson there, Todd. Thank you. Yes, Students Demand Action, which now has 900 affiliated groups at high schools and colleges, was launched nationwide in the wake of the Parkland school shooting. That was in Florida back in 2018.
That was one smart spokesperson there, Todd. Thank you. No, it wasn't. She said the exact same line that the mayor of Minneapolis said. Thoughts and prayers don't work because they were praying when they were shot. These NPCs cannot help themselves. This is how brainwashed they are. They say the same shit over and over again, and they don't even hear themselves talk. I have to bring this point up too because it's very relevant. This right here is how the CIA operates. This is exactly what they do. If this organization has 900 particular school districts or student action groups affiliated with, quote, Students Demand Action, unquote, it doesn't get more CIA than that. That particular spokesperson, a student, a female, a dummy, standing up on a park bench, looking at their other fellow students saying the same stuff over and over and over again. That kid is probably the kid of a parent who is in the CIA or gets paid by somebody who is affiliated again with the CIA. A lot of people, again, think that that's impossible. No, it isn't. Not at all. Parents who work for the CIA have children who go into these schools and they use their children as pawns because you can manipulate the mind of a child easier than anything. They will parrot, quite literally, almost any word or phrase or event without even stopping and thinking. They believe a fake event on television. They're told particular things about it on the mainstream media, and then they run with it in their local school. Not to mention, it would be next to impossible that one student could be able to organize a walkout like that within a school building without, again, school officials or other school teachers or whomever who work in the building knowing that it's going to take place, which means it was allowed. It was completely sanctioned. They didn't stop them. They didn't say, if you leave the building, then we're not responsible for your safety. You're a minor, clearly, because they're attending a K12 school. Even though loco parentis is still in play, because again, they're not supposed to go to school and then walk off of school campus or march around on the sidewalks or do whatever that they think that they want to do. Again, it's a liability issue. If somebody wanted to do a drive-by and start shooting them, well, then they're dead. And then who gets sued? The school district does. But again, the school district is not interested in the law. School districts don't care about the law. They don't even think about it. They're not even trained in the law. They just see an opportunity to engage in some social exercise of a political nature, and then they just randomly let minors do this. Not to mention, it's a K-12 school, specifically a high school. What kid wouldn't want to walk out of school just to have an excuse to walk out of school? And a lot of them, again, weren't carrying signs. They were just walking around like, well, I didn't want to go to math class today, and now I don't have to. It's lazy because they're lazy. And it's stupid because they're stupid. Again, I would love to walk up to that group, stand right next to that little girl on that park bench, and look her in the face and be like, Hi, everybody, how y'all doing? School shootings, by and large, are fake. Did you not know this? I was a school teacher during Sandy Hook. Pretty fake. Not a single body, not a single drop of blood. How about Uvalde? Very similar, awfully fake. A lot of cops just standing around, not doing anything. Allegedly some blood in the body cam footage, if that's to be believed. Nashville, pretty fake. In Minnesota, my God. No proof whatsoever. Cops carrying in bottles of water. People smiling as they're walking out of a murder scene. Because that's how people react. They smile when they've just gotten done watching their fellow peers get murdered. These warped little minds, ladies and gentlemen, they are the so-called future of this country. I've said it before when it comes to this fake shooting stuff, and again, like clockwork, they happen, and then all of the social movements across the entire United States for quote-unquote gun control always end up happening, and as we know, it has nothing to do with school safety. It's always surrounded with more gun control. How can we increase gun control? How can we get guns out of people's hands? Because it's a gun problem. Again, it's the old spoon bending stuff. Too many people trying to bend a spoon. There is no spoon. It's not that trannies are doing anything, and look at all these increased shootings of trannies doing this, that, and the other. No, there are trannies and there is murder, but there is no school shooting with trannies. Doesn't exist. It's hearsay. A person on TV said this happened, and all these people said it happened, so it must have happened. Well, do you have any visual proof it happened? No. Again, there is no spoon. Too many people trying to bend it when there isn't one to begin with. It's amazing. And then, of course, there's this, which gets next to zero attention, of course. The anti-Christian bias that existed under the fake Biden administration, which, of course, was completely coordinated in an effort to weed these individuals out of the government schooling system and make sure, again, that they're only bringing in Marxists and communists and quote-unquote people of color or anybody, again, who aligns with the most radical on an ideological level. There were some of the findings from their anti-Christian bias breakdown and the weaponization of, again, the Department of Education under the fake Biden administration. This is on Gateway Pundit. It says the following. Findings of anti-Christian bias. Of course, we know about the Grand Canyon University lawsuits and all of that stuff. We got to shut them down because they're online, brick and mortar, and they're all of it. And they're Christians, and well, we can't have that. So there was, of course, that from a while back. But there's also this weaponization of policies targeting Christian higher education. The Biden administration weaponized the Department of Education and attempted to impose record-breaking fines on some of the nation's largest Christian universities, including Liberty University, $14 million, and, of course, Grand Canyon University, $37.7 million. Targeting of school boards. The Biden administration's, quote, book ban coordinator role with ED investigated school boards for removing age-inappropriate materials from school libraries, typically in response to religious objections by parents. That if you were a parent who lived in a town, who had a child who went to a school where the library of that school had pornographic books, cartoons, other sexually explicit material, what have you, then there was something wrong with you, and we need to single you out and say that you're the problem, not us. And then again, weaponize the system against you. Have you removed from board meetings? Have you fined for trespass? Retaliate against your child in the classroom? The list is endless. It then says future actions. End the weaponization of policies targeting Christian higher education. The Trump administration's Office of Federal Student Aid carefully evaluated pending cases and rescinded excessive and unjustifiable fines targeting Christian institutions. ED will no longer disproportionately target Christian colleges and universities and will affirm the right of Christian colleges and universities to act in accordance with their faith-based identity. And then the last one here, monitor freedom of religion infringement in K12 public schools. The rights of religious freedom extend to parents and educators in K12 public schools, and these include religious objections to gender ideology on the basis of Christian faith. It says the cases of Vistasaki, no way I got that right, and no way I get that name right too, again, Central School District out of New York, and another one as well in Oregon, serve as prime examples of individual religious liberty violations by public school systems and administrators. Again, they went all in. 2020 was their green flag. That's when they all got the order to go in. That's why COVID, again, was the old Trojan horse. And it was packed to the gills with all kinds of nonsense, including lots of death, and legal discrimination, of course, and race discrimination, and gender discrimination, sex discrimination, you name it. Not to mention, again, if you were a white male, you were always the target, and if you were a white male Christian, you were really the target. In particular, again, if you were a parent. Fortunately, to some extent anyway, the tables have turned a little bit here, and the weight of the law is working against these perverse school districts. This next story has a lot to do with the Massachusetts use of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which is rather famous for being created by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The irony of them being called that is astounding. But this again was from the Gateway Pundit, and it was titled, Massachusetts School District Under Investigation for Forcing Kids to Take Graphic Sex and Gender Surveys, Ignoring Opt-out Requests in Violation of Parental Rights. Again, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey was something that I implemented when I taught health education at the middle school level. I think I implemented it for maybe 5 years. I think we did it maybe 5 times. And again, it was typically done, I would say, well, it was done once a year, but it was done among those who just formally had my health education class. And even back then, I found the questions to be a little probing, kind of unnecessary. Although, again, the CDC takes these statistics and then throws them all together allegedly in some, I don't know, pseudo-moral way. And then they publish their results once they gather all of them. But over the years, they started to become far more probing, basically in a sexual way and in a sexual nature. And they didn't used to be that way. Not certainly when I was doing it. But again, I haven't taught in, 10, 11 years. So it's been a while. But either way, they're still having problems with it because, again, the survey itself is becoming more perverse. It says the Department of Education has launched a formal investigation into Burlington Public Schools in Massachusetts following parents' accusations that the district ignored their opt-out requests and forced students to participate in the 2025 Youth Risk Behavior Survey. It was initiated by the department's Student Privacy Policy Office, SPPO, and investigating potential violations of the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA. It says the federal law guarantees parents the right to exempt their children from surveys that ask for sensitive private information. Yes, And even back when I taught, students could again opt to not take it. And many of them did, which was 100% fine. I didn't care if anybody took it. But again, I had an obligation to at least offer it. It says parents were notified in advance about their opt-out rights, and several submitted written requests to exclude their children from the survey. Despite this, the district allegedly required the opt-out students to take it anyway, with at least one teacher reportedly forcing a student to participate over clear objections. It says examples of the questions included questions on sexual orientation with options like straight, lesbian, gay, asexual, bisexual, pansexual, and queer. Now, again, this is a survey that is typically administered at the middle school level. Most middle schools and middle school students might not know what these mean. Certainly, of course, they wouldn't have years ago, but it might be a little more normalized now, as awful as it is. The next one said gender identity queries, asking students if they identify as cisgender girl/woman, cisgender boy/man, transgender girl/woman, or transgender boy/man, or non-binary /genderqueer. Yeah. This is why the survey can't be taken seriously, because it's not a survey anymore. It's a sexual preference, sexual ideology questionnaire. The next one says explicit details on sexual intercourse, defining it to include vaginal, oral, and anal sex, and the use of toys or props. Pull your children out of school. The next one says inquiries about forced sexual acts and the age of first alcohol consumption, with options as young as 8 years old or younger. Yeah, that one unfortunately was one that was on there when I administered this survey. The top ones were not, but the previous ones I just read weren't. But again, have you been abused was a question. And then, of course, the business of alcohol and drug consumption was also a standard question. Flavors of tobacco products used such as fruit, alcohol, candy, mint, menthol, wintergreen, clove, or spice. Again, it's getting more specific, right down to the actual brands and flavors of particular things. It's completely unnecessary. It says these questions were deemed graphic and downright inappropriate by U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, who blasted the district's actions. She said, quote, parents must be the primary decision makers in their children's education. The allegations that Burlington violated parents' rights by administering a survey against parents' wishes, and particularly one that is graphic and downright inappropriate in nature, is unconscionable. It wraps up here. She said the department will investigate this matter thoroughly and continue to resolutely defend parents' rights. Good. Again, you can pull them out too. But again, this should show people that these brainwashed lunatics who work in these buildings, that even if they're looking at an opt-out form, they'll ram it down a child's throat no matter what, the very thing that they're attempting to opt out of. Again, if they'll do that for a piece of paperwork, imagine what they'll do again when it comes to something far worse, and something that is far more sexualized. It's beyond gross. In fact, let me mention this just kind of, not quickly, but I want to give people some updates here as to what is going on regarding the local case of the, whatever it is, paid administrative leave individual, elementary school principal Jason Merz in the Talawanda City School District in Oxford, Ohio. You may recall that I wrote a Substack article, at least 2 of them, about this particular case. There is still an ongoing Title IX investigation. There are multiple victims, which again would indicate that there are probably at least 2 other Title IX investigations taking place potentially. However, ultimately, when it comes to any investigation involving the abuse of a child, that investigation hinges on the parent's participation. If the parent chooses to not participate, then there won't be an investigation. But by law, if a school district's Title IX coordinator obtains the name of an individual who has been named as an abuse victim of an abuser who is affiliated with the school district, those Title IX coordinators, again, because they're mandated reporters, they, of course, have to report this to the necessary authorities, including the names of the individuals who have been involved in this. There not only has to be a Title IX investigation, but because they're mandated reporters, they have to report this to the legal authorities, which would be, of course, the local police. The problem with this particular case is the police are involved, allegedly. Because at the very beginning of this entire case revolving around Jason Merz, 1 year ago this month, in writing, Butler County Children's Services, or Butler Behavioral Health within the Butler County Children's Services building, wrote a memo that I published in that first Jason Merz Substack that clearly shows that they contacted CPS regarding the, again, alleged abuse of a minor in a bathroom stall of Kramer Elementary School at the hands of their principal. Once CPS, of course, gets that information, by law, given the seriousness of the allegation and the proximity to minors, they have to act immediately under Ohio law, emphasis on the word immediately, by contacting the local police within the jurisdiction of that actual school where the crime was committed, potentially. Which means the Oxford Police Department was in possession of knowledge that this was being alleged. And what did they do? Nothing. They never removed the principal. They never arrested him. They never processed him. He wasn't questioned on the record. Nothing. He remained. There's another detail in all of this that matters also. And I want people to understand, again, the weight of this corruption and the depth of this kind of corruption. In this particular case, based on, again, just my general knowledge of it, which is extensive, and having communicated with a great deal of people about it, you have Principal Jason Merz allegedly in 4 bathrooms with 4 minors, who all happen to be boys. And in 3 of those instances, all 3 of these instances out of the 4 involve defecation of the minor, defecating on themselves. Now, why would that be the case? Because, again, a minor student, a minor boy, defecating on themselves can happen essentially at any point revolving around sexual abuse. It can happen before the abuse takes place. It can happen as the abuse is taking place. It can happen after the abuse has taken place. It can even happen days after the abuse has taken place, or it can happen at the very beginning before any said abuse takes place as a reaction or a self-defense mechanism. And it can be used again as a self-defense mechanism, so to speak, or an unconscious self-defense mechanism throughout any point throughout the actual abuse. Not just defecation, but even urinating on themselves. As both, again, an emotional reaction to what's actually taking place, but also a conscious act to try to get the person off of them. Which begs the question again, why is it that Jason Merz, as a school principal, is directly associated with 4 minors, 3 of which were covered in their own shit in a bathroom? Allegedly. At least one case is openly admitted in writing to the school board. I published that also, if I'm not mistaken. Seems rather suspicious, does it not? Also begs the very simple question, why is a school principal in a bathroom with a minor boy by themselves? Is that a school principal's job? See, this also, again, begs another question, which is, why is it that OPD would drop such a case? Why would they drop it a year ago when CPS told them, apparently? Of course, I can't obtain that documentation. I've tried under Ohio Revised Code because an investigation took place and it involved a minor. The parent of the child isn't even allowed to obtain that documentation. Ask yourself if that's fair. It seems like everybody should be able to obtain that documentation. Certainly the parent. But why would they drop it a year ago? And then, once the parent makes an actual formal police report about the abuse, it only takes them, 2 months to conduct some investigation? And then they drop it because they say they don't have enough evidence to charge. You have more than enough evidence to charge if you'd have done an actual investigation. Because the Title IX investigator is doing more of an investigation than a police department. You see, here's the interesting part about sexual crime of this nature also, is that when something like this happens, you're supposed to interview in an investigation everybody. Everybody. Now, the reason that they wouldn't is because they have something to hide. Kind of a big deal. I think they have more to hide than the simple fact that they didn't report this or investigate a year ago when they should have. There's that aspect of it, which is damning enough. But I think there's something else going on too. I think there's something way bigger, whether that's moving kids around, whether that's sexually abusing numerous minors within the school district. Maybe police officers are doing the abusing, who's to say? This is the issue here. But a case of this nature, again, a prosecutor worth their salt who had a brain in their skull would hear about this particular case and say, I need all of the evidence. I need the names, the events, the times, and allow me to connect some dots here because I can charge this person with a crime. Now here again, I'm Walter Mittying this whole thing and just kind of playing it out, not a lawyer, not pretending to be one. However, I do know this. I know that in cases like this, it would probably end up as a plea deal because if it went to trial, a Jason Merz would lose. He would lose big time. There's no way he'd win. You wouldn't have to bring the abused children on the stand to face their accuser because, again, they're minor children. There's no need for it. All you would need are the forensic interviewers who interviewed the child and asked the child, what happened? Tell us what happened. What exactly happened? Where did they touch you? How did you react? What did you do? What time of day was it? How often has this happened? Do you think forensic interviewers who interview for a living abuse children have come across children who have defecated and urinated on themselves before as a reactionary measure to being sexually abused? Of course they have. Which means when you put those forensic interviewers who have formally interviewed children on the stand, they will tell you on the stand under oath that this case is legit, that this happened. People's feelings about it are irrelevant. People on the outside who don't have all of the facts, haven't looked at the evidence, and are just operating on feeling, they're completely irrelevant. They are literally blind to what is actually happening. But again, a Jason Merz in any kind of an actual trial itself, he would get cooked. Because people on the trial, people in the actual jury itself, rather, they would listen to the details of this from, again, forensic interviewers. And they would bring in school psychologists or actual child psychologists. And again, they would be subpoenaed to be witnesses. Some of them, again, would be asked a series of really tough questions, and of course, the defense would have to bring in the same kinds of people to counter those particular points that the prosecution would be making. I've watched enough trials from beginning to end on sexual abuse to know how this works. Again, the prosecution would bring in a sexual child psychologist, so to speak, or child abuse psychologist, and ask them questions about the defecation and abuse in XYZ, and they would say, oh yes, this is remarkably common. That would put the defense in a very tough situation because they would have to bring in somebody who would refute what that person would say, which would be next to impossible. Which means it wouldn't go to trial. It would have to be a plea deal. There would have to be a fine. There would have to be at least Tier 2, Tier 3 sex offender status, which is middle to high when it comes to sex offender status. Possible jail time. That's what should happen in a case like this, but that's not what's happening. Oxford Police Department dropped it a year ago without even investigating, and then 2 months after the parent fills out a police report in the month of May, the whole thing gets dropped. But not so with the Title IX investigation. And if other names are named in a Title IX investigation, well, then you've got a real problem. A bigger one than you originally thought. And cases like this always snowball. Why? Because there's never just one victim. There's never just one victim. Never works out that way. Doesn't matter how familiar people are with Jason Merz. Doesn't matter what they think about him. Doesn't matter how many pancake breakfasts he was at and how much donation time he's given to this cause or that cause. If priests can fuck kids, I think an elementary school principal can sexually assault a child also, right? If politicians can carve them up into pieces and drink their blood for fun, well, this is T-ball compared to the big leagues, is it not? But when you're a prosecutor in a police department and you're saying, no, we don't think there's anything here, sorry, you're hiding something. Now here's where they're really showing that they're hiding something. There's a detail in this case that has to be mentioned. The Oxford Police Department is directly targeting the mother of the abused child. They are retaliating against them, so much so that they are citing the mother for child neglect and or child endangerment. Because in Ohio, you're allowed to leave your children at home. It's the law. And the children are smart enough and old enough to stay home. But they are monitoring and surveilling the mother and the parents in an effort to again stick them with ticky-tack citations based on their feelings and opinions in an effort to get the mother in jail and the children to again be obtained by CPS and thrown into the government system. You have anonymous phone calls being made to the mother's mother, the children's grandmother, claiming that they're CPS over the phone, to then only find out later on that it's a crank call. That it's not CPS contacting the grandmother and saying, are you prepared to take your kids? Take your grandkids because your daughter might end up in jail. That happened. And that's disgusting. But that's also what disgusting, ugly people do. You had a prosecutor in the courtroom, apparently, during one of the courtroom visits where the mom of the abused child had been cited for having a suspended license. Now, what's interesting is there was a suspension, but with privileges. It's unrelated to the sexual abuse aspect. But the point is that the police department knew about it. And they knew again that her license had been suspended with privileges, but there was a hidden fee that the mother was unaware of and was never told about. That she had to pay this fee so that the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, that it would show online that her license was suspended with privileges. She was just told this by the judge when it happened at the time, back in whenever that was. That was before she went public with this child abuse, back in March, I think. And again, the police department surveilled her and said she's driving around on a suspended license. Yeah, she has privileges, but whatever. We'll just tell everybody it's suspended and then we'll cite her for it. And they did. And she went to court. And in that particular court session, the prosecutor looked at the judge in front of everybody, including the mother, and said, I want her in jail and I want her kids to be taken by CPS. Who does that? Over a so-called traffic violation that the mother was even unaware of. These are people with something to hide. There's also this. Apparently, in this school district, if you're not, and of course there's no way this is legit, and if it is, it's discretion, and it's being used again against certain parents at certain times to weaponize a system against certain people. But there is a bus that comes and picks up her children in the morning and then drops them off in the afternoon after school. This particular bus driver has been told to not let her children off of the bus, which stops right in front of their house, literally at the end of their driveway, which is not a long driveway. It's maybe 10 yards, 15 yards tops. That the children themselves are not allowed to get off the bus unless there is an adult present in the yard who is a licensed, identifiable, on-the-record parent who is there to pick them up. Which means this school district is so concerned with child safety that they actually believe that there's no way that a school principal would sexually assault a minor, and they instantly take the side of the school principal, but they don't think that children can walk 10 yards in their own front yard, use their own key to unlock their own front door, go into the house, lock the door, and stay in there until mom comes home from work. The mother, by the way, has taught her kids how to stay home and what to do when they are home, what to do and what not to do. As a result, again, of the mother not being there one particular time when her kids were to be, again, off of the bus, someone else was supposed to be there, that someone else wasn't there. And as a result, the children remained on the bus. And the bus driver wouldn't let them off of the bus. The mom gets home a few minutes later, and her kids aren't there. She panics, dials 911. Where are my kids? Tries to wave down a cop who's on her street. Cop drives away. Calls the school where her kids go to school. No one answers. She leaves a voice message. She calls twice. No one answers. Then she calls 911 again. And then they get a hold of a cop, and the cop says, we have your children. They're at the bus depot stop. Come and get them. 3 days later, they cite her for child endangerment. Ask yourself if that's even logical. This is a school district that was letting children walk home over a mile once elementary school ended. All across town. No parents present, nothing. Even her own children used to walk home last year. But now they're not allowed off of a bus in front of their own house unless somebody is there who is on record in the paperwork system to actually pick them up. It's rather suspicious, is it not? It can't get more suspicious. And then they did it again. On another occasion, the children were home, and the mother again was away. And one of the children heard something. They both heard something, a strange person that they didn't know outside of their house making some noise. And their policy in their family is to call their mom. They called their mom. Mom said, don't call the police. I'm coming home. It's probably the neighbors. Call the neighbors, see what's going on, and then I'll be home. The child hung up the phone and instead of calling the neighbor, dialed 911. Police show up. Neighbor comes over. But the neighbor is there with the children before the police show up. The police tell the neighbor to go away. Go back home. Right next door. Go home. We'll stay with the kids. Police tour the house. House is clean. Nothing wrong with it. But then they fill out a police report saying that there are certain things that they don't like. See what they're doing? They're retaliating against this mother. They're building a case. They're fabricating complaints to keep her quiet and to shut her up and to get her separated from her children. What do you think happens to a child who's been abused by an elementary school teacher allegedly when they get thrown into the government system and separated from their parents? What do you think happens then to those children? I think you know. 3 days pass then after they apparently start to again continue their case for another charge. And at 11:30 at night, they show up rather, didn't knock on the door, but they showed up at the mother's home where the two children were also, 11:30 at night, and serve her the citations, which are court summonses. The mother goes to court. The mother is then told, not based on any child endangerment case of any kind, but because of the traffic citation, that she's told to not drive and she has to wear an ankle monitor on her ankle for 2 weeks. Now here's where it gets even hairier. During that particular court hearing, the judge tells her that she has to go to one of the county probation offices to pick up her ankle monitor, and that she has to do it within like an hour and a half or 2 hours of the end of the court hearing. But she's not allowed to drive. So now what? See what this means? They were purposely trying to set her up so that she wouldn't make her probation hearing for her ankle monitor. Thereby, there would be a warrant out for her arrest, and then she would be arrested the same day. And then the children would be with CPS or another family member in another town someplace. Thankfully, she contacted me and I drove her. It's one of the reasons why she's not in jail. And I'll drive her wherever she needs to go to make sure that she's not in jail and doesn't violate anything. And she hasn't violated anything. She hasn't broken a single law yet, not one. And yet she's the one at home wearing an ankle monitor on her ankle, not allowed to drive. Do you know where Jason Merz is right now? He's walking around free. I think everybody can see what's going on here because it's crystal clear. It's blinding. The police report that the police filled out regarding the complaint that the parent made regarding Jason Merz and the abuse of her son in an elementary school bathroom stall was 1 sentence long. That police report is 1 sentence long. I published it in the first Substack article. The police report pages against the mother regarding those quote-unquote child endangerment and traffic infraction citations are pages and pages and pages long. Approximately 14, give or take. Do you see what's happening here? A lawyer is going to have a field day with this. And guess who else is? The Department of Justice. They're going to have a field day with this too. The Office of Civil Rights. They're going to have a field day with this too. This is crystal clear retaliation against a mother of an abused child who filled out a police report that her child was abused by his school principal. And exactly how a corrupt police department behaves as a result. This is not what an ethical police department would do who is innocent. This is not what protect and serve means. If protect and serve is defined as we have to protect our own and serve our own within the department, well then, mission accomplished. So far, so you think. But when the individuals who are supposed to, again, enforce the law are not doing so, and are doing the exact opposite and weaponizing themselves against the innocent, then you have a problem. And that's putting it mildly. Not to mention, to tie in Joseph Hall, this is the same school district that failed to do a proper background check on an individual that they were going to hire as the director of student services, pay them $114.4 thousand a year. While again, they were being accused in police reports of going off on gay escapades in the middle of the workday while getting paid by the county that they were working for at the time to have strange gay sex with what the detective who was, again, investigating the case believed to be a minor boy at the boy's residence. There is a pattern here, ladies and gentlemen, with American schools that is beyond troubling. Pull them out of these buildings. They are not safe under any circumstance whatsoever from either their peers or the adults around them. I'm sorry, they just are not. And it's not going to get better with every passing day. It's going to get worse. So I just wanted to give you that update. Again, I'm directly involved in what's going on here, and I'm determined to make sure that an innocent parent doesn't go to jail and lose their children because of a corrupt system that is seeking to protect a child molester, allegedly. Now, again, I don't know about you, but I've never been in a public bathroom, let alone a school bathroom, in the 9 years that I was a school teacher, 10 years when I was a school teacher, and someone was defecating on themselves at the exact same time. I mean, that was never a thing. If a child or a minor or anybody, even an adult, would have yelled out into the hallway, "Hey, Sean, Mr. Brooks, I've just shit on myself. Can you come in here and help me?" I'd be like, "Sorry, bro, you're on your own. But I'll go get the police officer or I'll go get the nurse." That's how that gets handled. You don't randomly find your way into a bathroom with a single minor on at least 3 to 4 occasions, and then defecation be a part of each of those stories. At least 3 out of the 4 of them. Unless something else is going on. Highly unusual. Highly suspicious. Highly problematic. And if a person can't see that, then that person isn't thinking. Now, there's not much of a transition here, but I'm going to move on. I just wanted to give you some of those updates and let you know again that in cases like this, retaliation is a very real thing. And then, of course, people see the retaliation and then the victims themselves fail to come forward to the local police department to make a complaint because they see the retaliation. That's all coordinated. That's not an accident. It's done on purpose, and it's disgusting. But again, just wanted to give you that update. Okay. Moving on here, just very quickly and just kind of to wrap up, Sicily, New Mexico sent me this one. ThePeoplesVoice.com.tv. Headline here, Greece closes 766 schools as collapsing fertility and birth rates trigger demographic death spiral. Less students, less families having children, equates to less schools needing to be open. because that means less, again, teachers, and can't have the business if there aren't enough people. It says the following here, quote, the data reveal a stark trend that in 2018-2019 school year, 247 primary schools and 312 kindergartens were non-operational. And for the 2026 school year, those numbers will rise to 324 primary schools and 358 kindergartens, respectively. It says the remaining suspended schools are from the secondary level, mainly high schools. The demographic problem is terrifying, they said, as we experience it year after year. Adding said that for the most part, there might be permanent closures. The closures will amount to more than 5% of schools in the country, extend beyond remote villages and islands, affecting parts of the Attica region, which encompasses Athens, where officials warn of a, quote, collapse in demographics, unquote. Again, this is one of the reasons why they flood these countries, certainly in Europe, with illegal aliens from Africa and African countries and Middle Eastern countries. They're purposefully killing Europe. And you can see it again with this particular story, school closures. So what's their next move? Their next move is an attempt to then probably change the laws to allow foreigners to be in schools, to keep the schools open potentially, but who in the hell is going to teach them? They're certainly not going to be teaching them anything about the native culture and the native language. That's not going to happen. So then you're going to have to bring in foreign-born instructors to, again, educate those foreigners in a foreign country. This is how you invade, and this is how you take over. You can do it with policy, and you can do it without firing a shot. Now, to end on some good news, it's one hell of a week, and it's been one hell of a week here regarding the pharmaceutical industrial complex and the medical industrial complex. They are taking an absolute beating right now, and it is awesome to watch. The RFK testimony last week is still making waves. People are still talking about it. You now have this also, a quick headline here. University of Michigan stops providing harmful transgender hormones and puberty blockers to minors after DOJ subpoena. The simple fact that that was happening in the first place is an abomination, but it's been shut down, thank God. Absolutely disgusting. Again, this month of September, when it comes to the medical industrial complex, is going to be very, very revealing. And if people are whining, like I even heard Nick Fuentes whining about it a little bit, and he's whining about the people, again, who are even bringing up alternative medicines as if to say they're not even the saviors. Well, no kidding. A lot of those are just profiteers, and they're individuals in trying to make money and sell supplements and a number of other things. People just have to use discernment, and they have to understand that, yes, we've all been lied to about the medical industrial complex from birth. Over 150 plus years ago, we were lied to about it. Longer than that. Since the invention of inoculation, we were lied to. Because there's no such thing as viruses. They don't exist. There's just poison. Again, every single senator on the left or the right who was saying, well, the polio vaccine has been proven to work and the COVID shots have saved lives. All of that is a lie. There's no such thing as polio. Again, it's a name for a symptom of being poisoned. That's it. It's not some random occurring thing that floats around in the air. Whoops, I tripped on polio. Polio fell into my mouth the other day. Accidentally smelled polio. Now I have polio. It's absurd. It's completely ridiculous. It's poisoning your DNA. Even in the Q posts, the very last one, protect your DNA. Who is coded in your DNA? It's God's signature, literally. Stay away from poison. And I'm telling you, this month right here, with all these studies that are going to start coming out, I'm going to bring them up. It's not just that Tylenol's bad for you and loaded with aluminum, which goes into your brain and makes people autistic. That's a snowflake on the tip of the iceberg. That's terrible. But it's going to get a whole lot worse and a whole lot more revealing. And people are going to go in one of three directions. They're going to say, I told you so. And then you're going to have people that are going to go, wow, I didn't know that. Maybe I should rethink this entire medical industrial complex thing. And then you're going to have the lunatics on the other end who are going to double down on their own stupidity and jab themselves even more and swallow Tylenol by the handful. Go for it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening as always. I'll catch you on Wednesday with Dr. Robin McCutcheon. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.